You are listening to Here Before, Here Now, an Arizona's Family Originals podcast.
Hi, everyone. Colton here with another episode of Here Before, Here Now. Right now, there's a lot of questions across the country, especially when it comes to federal workers who were laid off. As you know, a couple weeks ago, President Trump used an executive order to reduce the workforce for federal employees, directing the Department of Government Efficiency to find ways to do that. And since this has been happening, we've seen several stories from across the country about federal workers being laid off, let go, told their services were no longer needed. And we're seeing this trickle down to many areas. When it comes to Indian country, of course, a lot of Indian country services are under the umbrella of the Department of Interior, the Department of Indian Education, BIA, and things of that nature. And last week I had seen a story about this impacting a higher education facility out in New Mexico, the Southwestern Indian Polytechnic Institute, SIPPI is what it's known as. It's based in Albuquerque, and it's a place for Native students to obtain higher education and also potentially go to other higher learning institutes, other colleges and universities as a jumping board, and had seen that several people were laid off suddenly. And so right now I'm going to be speaking with one of those workers who found herself being let go. This is Pearl Yellman. Thank you so much, Pearl, for speaking with me. I take it right now, it's been a few days. The dust has kind of settled, as you had said, in terms of the shock value of all this. Tell me what your position was at SIPPI and the whole day of finding out you were being let go.
Sure. Thank you. Good morning, Colton. Thank you for having me on the show. My name is Pearl Yellowman. I'm Diné from, I grew up in Tuba City, and I was currently serving as the Vice President of College Operations at SIPPI. I was just shy of 3 years next month. And so my division, or college operations, we oversaw all of the budget and finance management. We also oversaw all of the IT information, so campus-wide IT. We also included our safety and security, so campus-wide safety and security operations. And then one of our largest departments was facilities. And inside of facilities, we had three departments, if you will. One was grounds, so all of campus grounds. Another was maintenance, so all of the HVAC systems, keeping the lights on, so to speak. And then we had facilities, and facilities included small construction projects and large construction projects. So I was very fortunate. I oversaw all of those. I have prior experience with teaching and counseling students, so I got to be a part of student-facing programs. I coordinated last summer's Summer Bridge program. So I was involved with students as well.
And you were let go several days ago. How many employees were also told that they would no longer be needed on campus? How did that whole process go?
Right. So February 13th, let me just backtrack a little bit. So prior to February 13th, we'd had SIPPI's a federally funded higher education institution. And prior to February 13th, we'd received directives. For example, one of the directives was to remove content from our website that had the wording of DEI on there. So that was just an example. We were beginning to receive emails and directives. And then the week of February 14th, I had received a text message asking if SIPPI leadership was being informed of potential layoffs, and I had not been informed of any potential layoffs, or any layoffs that might be affecting our school. So that was on a Thursday, February 13th. But when I went to work on Friday, February 14th, I had heard from the president's office that we should be preparing for potential layoffs that day. Because I oversaw college operations, I was preparing to kind of carefully assist anybody who was potentially going to get laid off, and assist them with an exit, by receiving or retrieving their access cards. Like, that was going to be my duty for the day. We had not received an official notification or email addressing us individually. And so in one of our leadership meetings at, roughly around 11 a.m., I was told that I was on a list. Mm. And I was supposed to be helping with, help assisting with exiting others on the list. As I recall, there were roughly about 21 of us on that list that day, but I later heard that maybe 17 of us were let go. So unfortunately and sadly, I was told about 11, and I excused myself from the meeting, and I went to my office to start packing up. There were no official emails or letters, so it was hard to seek guidance.
Yeah. Well, Pearl, I'm sorry that happened to you. So many people are now in the situation of how am I going to pay for the roof over my head? How am I going to continue the livelihood of my family? And so I'm sorry that you're in this situation right now. I know that you are talking with us via Zoom on your phone. I just wanted to just make sure that your finger was off of the camera so we could see you perfectly. Thank you. Can you tell me about, you mentioned that SIPPI is under the federal guidelines, federal jurisdictions of the Bureau of Indian Education, and that's why this institution was targeted for these layoffs. What does that mean in terms of the relationship with this school and the government when it comes to these federal ties?
Yeah, so SIPPI and Haskell University are the only two higher education institutions that are federally funded. They're protected under the Snyder Act, and SIPPI is a land grant institution, and we're operated, or we're housed under DOI, the Department of Interior, and we're housed within BIE.
The Bureau of Indian Education, right?
Yeah, and we serve 100% American Indian students. And so we serve nationally. We don't just serve a specific tribe or a specific location or a specific area. We have students from all over the nation, and I imagine maybe Haskell as well. So that's what makes SIPPI unique, along with Haskell. So we're unique in that way. We're unique in that way that we serve all American Indian students, and we're housed here in the Southwest. And there are some protections, right? We're under certain treaty obligations. Education's prioritized. So is health. Health services are prioritized in trust responsibility. So it's been difficult to understand the last few weeks what might be in jeopardy, how it's come to some of these actions, some of these executive orders. And so I'm appreciative of some of the leadership that have reached out and reassured that they're advocating for us, and trying to help us make sense of this. Like you mentioned, we are full federal employees serving our institution, and then the next day we're not. So that's been a challenge.
When it comes to Indian country, a lot of the services for the people are directly tied to the federal government with federal funding. What does executive orders and actions like this that create these mass layoffs do for the services for people who live in Indian country who rely on these services when it comes to education and other things of that nature?
Sure. That's a great question. Last week I was fortunate to be on a similar call with the park ranger. There was a regional director who was a regional director of the national park system, and he explained that there would be less employees, perhaps longer lines. He was kind of sharing what the summer outlook would look like for the park, the national parks. And although I appreciated that, I started to think that some of our tribal schools and some of our tribal Indian education institutions historically have already been underfunded and historically have already been understaffed. And now it's just going to be an accumulation of more. There's going to be, less staff. So, for example, like SIPPI had experienced a decline of students during COVID. And once COVID restrictions had lifted and the school was kind of on this horizon of developing a robust strategic plan, trying to enroll more students, trying to increase programs and certificates and offer new coursework and courses, new staff were brought on, and I was one of them. New instructors were brought on, new tutors were brought on, teaching staff, administrators were brought on, and we were really on this path of expanding SIPPI services to the students. And now that now all of us new staff post COVID, are gone now. So the roles and duties and responsibilities still remain. They're just going to have to be shared with other staff who are still there, while students are still on campus, while operations are still going on. Our students really are the ones who are impacted.
Have you heard anything about how the school is going to go forward with all these cuts in terms of the level of courses that they maybe have been offering or even potential scholarships for some of these students? Is everything still kind of just up in the air at this point?
Well, I don't want to misrepresent or place any fear with our students. I think they have a right to some transparency, and it is hard to say how they're impacted. I know our staff and our instructors personally, the 17 of us who were let go. We really we created a support system for the students. Each of those instructors had a specialized area of research in the field that they were bringing to SIPPI. And so I really do hope that SIPPI is an institution that can remain open. Students are insured that they can complete their programs there and transfer on to universities and other colleges, or even return home with a degree earned from SIPPI. That's the goal. So I really do hope that can continue and remain. And I trust that our local leaders have been advocating. I've seen that and been in conversations where our local leaders are advocating for SIPPI our state representatives and our state Senate offices, have reached out. So I'm hopeful, and I'm hopeful that the students can finish their degree programs there.
And I know that obviously it was shocking to find yourself on that list of those who were being let go. It's been, I think, a couple of weeks now. How are you feeling, personally? Are you able to, do something else or find something else? Like how have you been able to cope?
Uh, I just spent the weekend with my family, and and I'm very fortunate. And I've been reminded over and over how fortunate I am to have a strong family connection, strong Diné teachings. And my mother over the weekend was reminding me of what ahwajit ego means, which means like I'll get through this, and I'll get through this by pulling myself up by my bootstraps, I guess is what the translation is ahwajit ego is like I'll pull myself up from this in a good way. Um and I think I'm really thankful. I'm thankful for my family and my relatives. Our high school in Phoenix, there they had the state championship tournament over the weekend, and a team that I helped coach years ago to state championship. We were recognized during the state championship halftime, and being around family, community members, even my former students. They I think that's where I get good energy from. I met you at the Unity conference a week and a half ago or 2 weeks ago, and
Right, right.
that's where I get my energy, is being around the students. I've been very thankful for all of my opportunities.
All right. Well, Pearl, excuse me. Thank you so much for talking to us about the situation and just showing how this is impacting Indian country and how students, especially from the demographic where you see a lot of economic disadvantages, higher learning disadvantages, and there was a place where many of them would go, especially at SIPPI, and to be kind of up in the air right now with how things are. Thank you for sharing that perspective with us. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right. Yeah, thank you. And for your listeners out there, viewers, thank you so much for tuning in and having these really complex conversations about Indian country. A lot of these things that we were talking about are rooted in treaties in our nation's history when it comes to healthcare and, as Pearl mentioned, even education. So a lot of people in the communities who are impacted, are questioning. So these things were supposed to be protected. Why are things not the way that they feel like they should be, right? So thank you for tuning in. We'll continue to look for more of these stories, hear from more of you about how this is impacting, and also just to bring an awareness of these issues that you might not really be really well versed in. Obviously, this is a podcast that does focus on Indigenous issues, but if you're someone who doesn't identify as being Native or Indigenous, it gives you another perspective and shines light on some of these issues. Again, thanks so much for listening to Here Before, Here Now. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. If you have any ideas, you can reach me on my email, colton.schoen@azfamily.com. Until next time.
You are listening to Here Before, Here Now, an Arizona's Family Originals podcast.